So in this short video, we'll look at the different units of temperature and how we can convert back and forth between them. So there are three main units that we're familiar with for temperature. There's the Kelvin, Celsius, and Fahrenheit. Celsius and Fahrenheit are in degrees. Kelvin is just Kelvin, so it's not degrees Kelvin. We use the Kelvin in the scientific community, and so that's generally where you'll see that. Celsius is going to be pretty much Europe and everywhere else, and then of course here we are all on our own again, the States using Fahrenheit. So we will describe temperatures in Fahrenheit, but if you go to Europe or anywhere else abroad, they'll have the temperature expressed in degrees Celsius. So at 0 degrees Celsius is the freezing point of water. That's the one place that we're probably familiar with. It was for freezing points and boiling points. We usually report those in degrees Celsius. For Fahrenheit, that's 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Room temperature is 25 degrees Celsius here. That's 298 Kelvin and 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And then body temperature, 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 310 Kelvin. And then, of course, we have the boiling point up here. So we know the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. That's 212 Fahrenheit and 373 K. So there's a couple of equations we can use to go back and forth. So if we have a temperature that's expressed in one unit and we want to change it to another, we can just use one of these formulas to do that. So if we want to go back and forth between Celsius, let's remember that 0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And then there's a conversion factor for the difference in the scale, how the increments jump. So I could either express it in terms of degrees Celsius or degrees Fahrenheit. If I do it in terms of degrees Celsius, it would be the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit minus 32 over 1.8, which is that conversion factor for going back and forth between those scales. If I just rearranged this in terms of degrees Fahrenheit, if that's what I wanted to solve for, it would be 1.8 times the temperature in degrees Celsius plus 32. So this is the same equation, just written two different ways. So I could solve for either, and honestly, when you put it in your calculator, you could solve for either, both ways. But this 1.8 number is sort of the conversion that is used to go between those scales. So, 212 degrees Fahrenheit is 100 degrees Celsius, so that gets us back and forth between them. So all we have to do is plug in the number we have, and we can go back and forth between Celsius and Fahrenheit. You might also want to go to temperature in Kelvin for a scientific experiment, for example, where we often use Kelvin, and a lot of the equations are meant for Kelvin because they have constants that involve the temperature in that unit. Generally speaking, we'd be going from degrees Celsius, which is the other thing that we use in science, so we don't typically see Fahrenheit there. And it's a pretty easy conversion. All we need to do is add 273.15 to the temperature in Celsius. So this 273.15 is 0 degrees Celsius. That's equal to 273 Kelvin. So you're just basically adding the Celsius plus 273 Kelvin to get to your temperature in Kelvin, and this we might use for some data analysis or to solve for some kind of value, and we would need that temperature expressed in Kelvin.